Hello there. Today I wanted to take a look at a white Rioja. So I have here a bottle of Cune's 2021 barrel fermented white Rioja. Rioja, I guess, is a region most of us think of as predominantly producing red wine, and that's correct. But I do think that it's a good source of relatively full-bodied, quite complex, characterful, age-worthy white wines. So well worth considering sometimes. The name Cune, I've never been quite sure about. I mean, I've seen suggestions that actually it's derived from the fact there was a spelling mistake from the producer's name, because this is a wine made by the Compañia Vinicola del Norte, España, CVNE. And the suggestion is that there was a spelling mistake or a label that was difficult to read, and hence the name Cune caught on. And these days it's pretty much universal that that's what these wines are referred to as. The company was founded in 1879 in Haro in the Rioja region, and today it's still run by the fifth generation of the same family, the Ribera del Duero family. And they not only have Cune, but there are a number of other brands associated with it. Villarreal, Monopole, Contino, all, you know, really quite well rated Rioja brands. So it's quite a large company with multiple facets. I believe they actually own 545 acres of their own vineyard, but that's only sufficient to supply about half of their production. This particular wine comes from vineyards in the Rioja Alta region. The fruit will be hand picked, it's very lightly pressed, and the juice goes into American oak barrels, at least 50% of which are new. There it ferments for 15 to 20 days, and that's done at room temperature. There isn't cooling in the barrels, so you'll get a relatively warm temperature up to probably about 20-22 degrees C. And following fermentation, the wine will stay on its yeast lees with some stirring to keep those in suspension for about 4 months prior to bottling. So relatively short aging, but in flavourful American oak, both for fermentation and aging. The wine is labelled as having 13% alcohol, and it's also labelled as being vegan and vegetarian friendly, so presumably there's no fining goes on there with any animal products. So let's see what we make of the wine, shall we? I mean, there's a medium yellow colour, relatively bright. As I swirl it, not surprisingly for a dry wine at 13% alcohol, it's not particularly clinging to the glass. There is a small formation of tears, but not much there. Let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are restrained, quite mineral in nature. There's a slight flintiness, so I'm thinking that that's a fermentation derived aroma. There's also a creaminess from the yeast lees. Behind the creaminess, there's a little bit of fruit. There's a sort of peach pear note. There's a slight sort of tropical ripe peachiness, but also that sort of pear note. And I think also there's a slight saline hint, which is something I quite often see in barrel fermented white Riojas. So let's have a taste. Tasting that, there is quite a pungent, salty oak at the front palate. The wine is medium, maybe light to medium bodied. It's not sort of full and rich and rounded. I suppose the 13% alcohol is adding a little bit of roundness to the back palate, but not a lot. There's a little bit of contribution. There's a sort of a creamy texture from the lees aging, but there's this quite enduring, pungent, sort of salty twang runs through the wine right to the finish. Actually, the acidity is nicely balanced. It's not particularly standing out, but there's a good freshness that allows the finish to last pretty well for what's not a hugely expensive wine. I suppose there are notes of slightly vanilla-y, as I say, that slight saltiness I think is coming as much as anything from the oak. It's that really sort of pungent twang. This is a very characterful wine that I think with food it's got sufficient flavour to cut through, and that would enhance the wine as well. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you find this interesting. I certainly think that this wine in particular, but white Riojas in general, can often make some really interesting, characterful drinking, which can be some lovely food matching as well. So hopefully if you've enjoyed the video, you'll like and share it with your friends. If you've got any comments, please leave them below. If you want to join up and follow us on YouTube, that would be fantastic. But most importantly, I hope you'll manage to find time to join us for another video tasting really soon. Bye now.